Hello, this is Dr. Denise Zeynep Leuenberger,
And I'm Christopher McMillan.
and we're here to share with you goals and objectives tied to Bridgewater State University's strategic planning process. What we want to share with you are some definitions tied to goals and objectives, but we also want to let you know that later on in the slides and on our Blackboard site, we have some tools that will help you establish your own goals and your own objectives in your own unit. So the basic definition of a goal is that it needs to be a measurable target and that it should be something that's achievable but that is somewhat ambitious as you move forward with the decision-making process. The tools that we have online will help you with this decision-making process as you establish these goals. Goals should be specific and measurable while being logically relevant and achievable. And what that really means is that we want to have a challenging set of goals, but we need to think about timing. So in Bridgewater State University's planning process, we've established two different timelines that are working together. One is that we have a 10-year vision where we're looking at some goals that may not be able to be achieved within the timeline of a 3-year strategic planning process, and some will be able to be achieved in terms of that 3-year process. So as you're establishing your goals, first we encourage you to think about your 10-year goal and then to break that down into 3-year segments so that you can write goals that you can achieve in the 3-year planning process that we're working with here at Bridgewater State University. Objectives are important because they subordinate to the goal. And so these are measured targets that help us to provide greater clarity to the goals that we're working on.
And objectives are important because they're action steps. So whereas a goal is an overarching theme or something you really are trying to achieve, the objective steps allow you to move forward towards that goal without becoming overwhelmed. They also set in place timelines and allocate responsibility to parties or other parts of the organization so that everyone's accountable as the process moves forward.
If you write your objectives clearly enough, you almost have a checklist in time to follow that says, we're going to begin with step number 1, and then we're going to go through steps 1 through, let's say, 10. And by the time you're done with those 10 steps, you will have achieved that goal, and you will be able to establish who's responsible for those particular objectives and when things are due along that process. One of the other areas that it's really important that we want to emphasize is that your goals need to be tied to the mission and to the data that you're working with. Again, going back to the concept of a touchstone, your mission is your touchstone, so there should be no goals that are not somehow tied to the mission statement that fall outside of what the mission statement is trying to achieve. Finally, the data driving decision making is really important as well. What we want to do is set measurable targets, and so that means that at Bridgewater State University, we're looking at two different things. We're looking at sometimes a very ambitious goal, which might be within our 10-year vision cycle. For instance, on a graduation rate, we might say we want to graduate students at 5% higher than we do currently. But that might be too ambitious of a goal. We might have a more moderate goal that's more achievable. So we need to use the big data, the macro level data, and get advice from our leaders and partners on our campus to understand what are achievable goals to set an appropriate baseline so that we're being ambitious, but at the same time, the goals are not so ambitious that we could not achieve them in a reasonable amount of time.
We've also listed some resources to help you as you move along focusing on your goals. I will have to say there's one pitfall in formulating goals that most of us fall into, and that is placing a lot of easily achievable goals in the beginning of the goal-making process. You really want a healthy balance of goals that you can easily achieve mixed with those that it's going to take a little more time and a little more effort to achieve. So just make sure that you have a balanced process of goals going forward. So we've included a worksheet that will kind of help you get started on your prioritization, a summary grid for the strategic planning process, and also a planning grid for the strategic planning process that you can use to help you as you begin the process of formulating your goals.
We also have train the trainers who can help you work through these worksheets, and they have been trained as to how to use these grids and the worksheets most effectively and can be a guide to you. Thank you very much for spending time with Chris and I on the strategic planning process.